Live. Okay. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today. This is the Adeel Pirzada podcast. We go live every Friday, all about real estate and construction. Very grateful to have very honored and successful guests in our podcast. We talk about real estate construction, and it's hosted by the Percon Group. We are local general contractors based in Calgary, with our eyes focused on moving upwards. We love to bring together successful guests to learn more and also help them grow as in their goals. And today I'm very honored to have Ian Jones, the president of the BGI Group. 23 million square feet of past developments valued at $9 billion. Yes, billion, not million. And his team has been responsible for the developments of Centennial College, 5-star hotels, and many different adult lifestyle buildings in the GTA area. Thank you for joining, Ian.
Thank you very much. I'll just give you a shortened version, a high-level history here, because yes, as you can imagine, it's quite extensive. It shows in the lack of hair and all the rest of it. But anyway, I came to Toronto with family in 1960. I've lived in Toronto ever since, based in Toronto. I went to Ryerson to become a chartered quantity surveyor. We design the economics of large-scale projects from beginning to end, and of the 20 courses or so, we're taught how buildings are built. So it's anybody that's interested in becoming a developer, I would highly recommend going on to rics.org. That's the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, and that's quantity surveyors. All the banks use them to check all of the developers' billings and loan amounts and everything. So they're very well respected as a profession. They're based in London, but also New York, and they're worldwide. There's about 130,000 of us. So I worked for the general contractor initially out of school, who was building the below-grade Toronto subway, young and bluer, below-grade. And I also, after that, I worked for a foundation company who built the CN Tower and a few other mentionables. I spent 4 years as the head office quantity surveyor for Mathers and Holdenby Architects. They were the architects of the Toronto General Hospital, St. Mike's, and the million-square-foot Robarts Library in the University of Toronto. After that, a company from Montreal opened a Toronto office and hired me as the contracts manager. So, and they were a construction management company. So I was responsible for all of the contract awarding, changes, billings, blah, blah, blah. So all of that. And after about 17 years of all of that, I decided, well, everything I've done is what a developer does. So I started my company in 1980 and I've been developing ever since. So that's it more or less in a nutshell. We've developed 5-star hotels, a few thousand condos, a big adult lifestyle community in Brampton. It's at 9281 Gorby Drive if you want to Google it. There's about 10 buildings, etc. And they were condo. We've switched in the past couple of years. Just before COVID, we were going to roll out the answer to the affordable housing crisis for the 55 to 75 generation, the boomers. And that's what we're laser focused on right now, because there is such a need for it. So it's a special new out of the box model. I call it a compassionate capitalism, because we do not take the profit out of the project. We leave it in to fund future projects, and the very same. The website for that is myjoyliving.com, which sort of explains what it's all about. And our own website, bgigroup.ca, further elaborates on it. So when we build these buildings, we turn them over to faith-based groups and non-profits. So that's basically, it in a nutshell. So I'm sorry if that was a kind of long introduction, but there you go.
That's awesome. That's great. What did you like? So you're developing, you're building them. Would you, when you hand them over, are you going to be doing the management as well, or are you going to let them, those faith-based groups, manage them?
Okay, well, the faith-based groups generally do not have the management capabilities, and we have to make sure they're run perfectly because it'd be CMHC financing, etc., and also to underwrite those loans, etc. So what we have is an agreement with a national property management company who manages over 30,000 units across Canada right now. And they will master lease or head lease the buildings. So they will be doing the management, the day-to-day management. So the faith-based communities would not have to, do it at all. They just get the net cash flow that's coming out at the end. And we don't. That's part of this whole process. We get paid to develop them, but for the ongoing ownership, they own it 100%. They get the future cash flow and the future build up in equity. So it's truly a philanthropic, not-for-profit model, which is needed.
That's great. That's a different niche. I've 55 to 75 years, compassionate care. So those would be seniors living, affordable living for those in that market.
Yeah, the simple answer is yes, but that age 55 to 75 are living living much longer, much healthier today. So this is a wellness type of project. It's not a care project. It's not a retirement home with nurses and doctors. As a result, instead of people paying $5,000 a month in those, they pay from $1,300 a month in our model.
Cool. That's great. I'm curious if you let young people live there as well, or is it just that age range?
Well, there can be, but any activities or anything like that, obviously are designed for that age group. But under the Charter of Rights and Ontario Human Rights Code, they have to be open for everybody, but whether, other ages want to live in them. But the good news is Gen X and millennials are right behind, so in 10 years or so, this will be the model that they'll be looking for instead of 5,000 a month independent living or retirement homes.
Yeah, it's much more affordable and easier to live, especially with that high rent in Toronto. It can be a pain. Yeah, thank you for everyone joining today. If I didn't get a chance to introduce myself, my name is Kevin. I am Director of Business Development for Percon Group. And our guest today, or actually our host today, he is working on another project and has asked me to come and commandeer today's podcast. And I'll be doing a great job here today with Ian. Now we're going to be asking some questions about real estate development. And this is great for anyone who is interested in how development works, real estate investing. Maybe you have questions about how to make money in real estate, perhaps not getting involved, and you could give it into the hands of someone like a developer to take care of, and you would get some money in return. This is a great podcast for you to understand the mechanics of it and for you to learn. And I do have some questions as well. So first question that I have for you, Ian, I've already asked many, but this is a big one. Is what have you found? What is the most difficult thing you have found in building towers and that you have had to face, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Well, when you say towers, I guess you just mean any type of major size of project, because quite a few of them only top out at 6 or 8 floors. So, but the issues are the same. whether you're pouring the 32nd floor or pouring the 8th floor, it's the same number of trades and everything on each project. So, you have to make sure you have good architectural and engineering drawings, really complete, so that when you award the contracts to the trades, there's really no wiggle room. You are being fair, but they're reading the contract, or their lawyers are reading it the same as we are. So when a project goes forward, if there's 30 trade contracts on any given project and any issues come up, the first thing you do is go to the contract and look at the drawings and specs that contract was based on. And if hopefully the thing can be diffused right up front. If it becomes a dispute, there are dispute mechanisms, and hopefully not construction liens, but if there are, we deal with them, we can pay them into court, etc. So to make sure the project doesn't stop, because if it stops, you're going to get a much bigger problem. So for every challenge or a dispute that arises, there's usually an answer. And to be fair with the trades in the first place, with fair contracts, and you're not trying to do them out of every dollar that they can, because it's a big mistake. And you treat them well, then they'll treat you well, and they'll treat you well in the next project. So there are a few issues that went further than that. Not many. We've never had a bankruptcy, either corporate or personal, and that's basically, being fair all the way through. Because if you dig in your heels, they'll dig in their heels, and before you know, the project can stop, and then you'll get 20 liens in the project, and it just goes down.
Wow. Yeah. Very insightful. Yeah. So working with, it sounds like working with a good team, architects, engineers, your consultants, make sure you have them there. I have good relationships with them. And so that way there's no issues like bankruptcy on buildings and receivership. I did hear so many different developers. I'm aware in the news that there's many developers and developments happening in Toronto going under receivership. Could it have been because of those issues?
Well, I think the current ones, and unfortunately, and although I'm a developer, I say the same thing. Developers don't know when to stop. Building. If it looks like the market is good and it's going to stay good, you'll keep building. But unfortunately, it can take 3 or 4 years to get approvals out of the municipality, and then 3 or 4 years to build. So there's a whole sort of 8 to 10 years where you're hoping that the market is going to be solid. Now, each one of those high-rise projects needs 70% pre-sales, solid pre-sales, not just conditional. And the reason for that is the bank usually provides a 70% construction loan, and they want covered by these firm agreements. But when everything starts to fail, which is the increase in the interest rates, and you have all of these people that bought the condos, and they bought them thinking they were going to get 2% mortgages, and now they're faced with 7% mortgages. A lot of them cannot close on their purchases. So if they don't close, the developer can default on his construction loan, and that can drag the project down and into receivership. And that's what's happening with some of them in Toronto.
Wow.
And the costs have gone up. The construction costs have gone up dramatically. So if you have the costs going up and the people not closing on their original deals, you've got a double whammy there that some developers just cannot survive through.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I was reading an article on the interest rates the other day, and I guess it should be holding for a bit. I know the Bank of Canada decided to hold, maybe not looking at increase soon. So hopefully not. I know housing is very important People need homes, and it's been a challenge for many developers and builders. So, yeah, my best wishes go to them. How did you? You said so. You said basically that was your issue. How did you overcome that challenge that you had?
Just through negotiation. Obviously you do everything you can fairly to stay away from court, because if it looks like it's heading for court, that's a 3 or 4 year process, and nobody wins. The lawyers win. But if that process ends up in a construction liens that they tie up any financing being advanced by the banks, then the project stops. And if the project stops, every other trade on the project will figure they're not going to get paid, so they also lien. So there was one. There was one that we did that we had to have the 30, and there's normally 30 trade contracts in every project. And we had them all in conditional contracts, because they have to be like that so that the bank knows that all of these can be firmed up, all these contracts. But you keep them conditional until the bank gives you that final approval, and then you firm them all up. And of the 30, 29 firmed up from what we negotiated. But the formwork contractor, they said they needed another $1 million on top of, I think it was 2.4, it wasn't a large project, 2.4 million formwork contract, but they wanted another $1 million. And we says, there isn't that in the budget, So I said, we'll get back to you. And then in a month or two, we had looked at about a dozen different ways of building those buildings. And we latched onto one that was only going to cost us 200,000 extra. So we told the formwork contractor, not getting a contract at all, and we built it another way.
Oh, did he get to a certain phase, or did he not even start?
Well, he didn't even start. This is, the contract was just a conditional on us getting the bank financing finalised. And then when it was finalised, then we firmed up everybody's contract. But he said, I'm not signing it unless I get another $1 million onto the contract. So we said, we'll get back to you in a couple of weeks, which we did. It says, you're not getting it at all.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So he was subject to change after the loans and the bank gets back to you. So you can basically go back and negotiate with the trades if you need to. Changes, right?
Yeah. If the contract's not signed, there's still that flexibility. But again, there better be good reasons. If it's only a 3-month gap, the prices don't go up that fast in 3 months. So, the trades expect you to honour the quotes that they've given, as well as us honouring, what we need to do. Well, 29 of the 30 did, and that one didn't, so they didn't get a contract.
Wow. It sounds like a big important skill here I'm learning is negotiation. Just from this discussion, it's like a really great skill to have, to be able to negotiate, especially when I know when some emotions are high. Like I've been in I'm not as big as your projects and not as big as your deals, but I've been in some negotiations where the people are saying, hey, no, let's honor this. And they get angry and upset. And I have to let them know that, hey, sorry, I can't do that. It has to change. And it sounds like it takes negotiation, emotional control. Would you say those are good skills to have?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, emotions are a bad thing to get involved in any negotiations, because you're not thinking business-wise, so it's basically initially the documents, like the architectural drawings and specs, and that includes structural, mechanical, electrical. etc., and also the specifications. So if they're really tight, that's what you award the contracts on. So if an issue comes up with a specific trade that's obviously in the documents, then they don't have a leg to stand on. They have to, say, okay, well, I know we're not getting that extra type thing, so, but if there's something missing from the architectural drawings, etc., or something that's unknown, we also have a built-in contingency amount in our budgets, so if we have to, we'll dip into that to solve the issue. We might not give the trade everything they're looking for, but there will be an emotion-free discussion, of how that gets settled.
Really insightful. Really, really, really interesting. Yeah. So having like contract documents have to be good. They have to be very open, especially if drawings change, design changes, you could go back. What would you say is the most important thing a developer should know?
In 10 words or less?
Yeah.
No,
From your strong experience, like many years of experience and billions of dollars developed, what have you learned is like the most important thing that someone should know, a developer?
Well, I honestly thank my professional background because as well as being a visionary as a developer, if you like, I'm also a detailed line item number guy. I mean, I don't rely on other people. I still do detailed estimates of any project that we're going to do. And then we get an independent firm of quantity surveyors, to check our budgets, and then the bank, before they advance a loan, they will get an independent firm of quantity surveyors to check their number, so that there's no conflict of interest, so the whole, the line item detail, and it's, nuts and bolts. It seems like, oh, there's 900 items here. You got to check every one of them. Our pro forma for each project is 900 lines, that make up the entire cost of every project. And we got an answer for every one of those lines. That's where a quantity surveyor background comes in.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's interesting. We did an estimate. It was a very big one, and the owner had a huge little bid application that he wanted us to fill out, and there were so many line items that he wanted to break it down in, and it was very large. And it's because some things can be put together, right? Like some people mix mechanical with plumbing, but I know in yours it sounds like it can be down in, it has to be mechanical, HVAC, and then there's plumbing in the separate line items, eh?
Yes, sprinklers, all in that. So
yeah, that's great. What would you say, what advice would you give to someone who's looking to invest into real estate? Let's say there's an investor watching right now and he wants to put his money somewhere. There's so many different options, stocks, crypto, different REITs, different investments, single family homes, multifamily. What advice would you give them if they want to put their money somewhere?
Well, I mean, high risk, high reward, obviously. So if you want a least risk, you could just buy some units in a REIT, and obviously look at their background and their payouts before you choose, the specific one. And I'm not going to mention any because I don't want it to come across like I'm recommending, but there are a few apartment REITs that are doing well because of the demand for rental apartments. And a lot of them are building new apartments on the existing apartment land because there's still enough land there. So you see a site that's got two 1960 12-story apartments and another acre at the side. Well, the REIT is putting in for a 30-story, rental apartment on that 1 acre. So they don't really have any land costs, etc. So that helps to, make the numbers work. So, the REITs that are really into rental apartment, would be one of the places for the least exposure, because of the giant demand, and that demand's going to be there for at least 10 years, for purpose-built rental. So other than that, because any REITs that are weighted too heavily on retail or office, I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole, and especially if they have more than 50% of office holdings, because those things, it's going to take the next 10 or 20 years to, figure all of that out, because remote work is here to stay for at least 50% of the office community. So lots of office buildings, they're talking about converting them to residential, but that's a big problem, because there's about 7 reasons why you cannot do that, through the zoning bylaws and all the rest of it. So putting money into that, thinking, oh, all these millions of square feet of office, change them into residential, you'll be stuck in that for the next 5 years, trying to get it approved and rezoned, etc., and converted, because the whole building has to be stripped right back to the structure, the exterior walls and everything, So I'd stay away from that. No, purpose-built rental is the biggie for this foreseeable future.
That's what you said about there. There's a couple big developers in office conversions in Calgary. I've been to a couple of their sites.
Right.
And he talked about their process. It seemed very long, and maybe it's great for them. I do know, like, even the rough-ins, it has to change a lot, down to the concrete. They have to rough in each washroom and shower, kitchen, and which, like some offices, they only have 1 washroom per floor, right? So everything changes.
Oh yeah.
A lot of different work. Yeah,
and the other thing is, if the building is 50% occupied still, it's only 50% vacant, you have to wait till those leases expire for the other, or you have to buy them out, which is an additional cost. So there's all of these costs. And some of the ones I've seen, it would be better to demolish the building. And some people say, well, the carbon footprint, but if you build a new state-of-the-art building today, residential, and make it passive house, which reduces the energy by 80%, your carbon capture is much better than what it would take to demolish that building. So you're dealing with an existing building and gutting it right down to the structure and etc. I can't see it.
I'm sure you've gotten many opportunities and offers to develop into office. I'm guessing, many people probably have came to you. I was like, hey, Ian, maybe we could make this into residential from an office.
No, because I don't honestly give it a time of day, because I know what would go into it, and as I mentioned, we're laser focused on this this new model. If somebody came and said, Ian, we'd like you to develop this 40-story condo in Toronto, we'll get the funding. No thanks. Because it would just take too much time away from this model that we're doing right now. Since January, we've got 6 contracts to do this joy model. 2 in Ottawa, 1 in PEI, 1 in Belleville, and another 2 close behind. And each one is for at least 400 units on each site. So this is what we're sharply focused on.
Focus is important. Even in anything in life, I've learned, like, focus. It's so easy to get distracted in life, but with focus, it brings it back. Very encouraging. This is good lessons for me. Very good to not get distracted by other things in life. Even real estate in business, but even in your personal life, so easy to get distracted. Let's say you go to the gym. I like to go work out, and then something distracts me from not going. I get tired or lazy, and I don't want to go. But laser focus gets me to go to the gym the next day.
And in business, if you're not laser focused, it can be terminal. And if you mess up with one bank, it's a small community, so it'd be difficult to get loans with another. Before we ring off, I'm going to give you a simple example of how somebody could start off as a developer.
Sure.
So whenever you want, I can just talk about that.
Sure. Yeah, we can go into it now. I was looking. Yeah, we can cover that. And also, I did want to ask you some questions about your thoughts on any issues for housing in your city. I know that you're very outspoken on LinkedIn. We can go into the more political stuff and your thoughts and your opinions on that and housing and how we can solve that. But yeah, happy to learn more about what you wanted to share about becoming a developer.
Okay, well, a lot of people figure we'll buy a house, we'll redo it up, and we'll flip it. As to get into the real estate business and start building it up. And some people have done that and they've had good success at it. They won't be these days, because of the economy and the interest rates and everything. But if you take a look at, and when I say ex-urban, you've got the suburbs and you've got the exurbs. And I'll use, I don't know the exurbs of Calgary too well, but in Toronto, say about an hour outside of Toronto, you get Stratford, Ontario. If you come up with half an acre on a corner lot that's zoned already, I wouldn't suggest rezoning to start, and it's zoned for highway commercial, then you can build about 20%. So let's say in round figures, that lot is 20,000 square feet. You can build 4,000 square feet. That's 4 stores. And every neighborhood wants a pizza place, a hair salon, a nail, whatever, but that pro forma will yield between $500,000 and $1 million to the starting developer. Because that's a I don't use the term no-brainer too often, but that 4,000 square feet is a box with about 4 or 5 partitions in it. Okay, so you take it through. If it's zoned already, you just take it through the permit process. You can build it easily. That, because all you're talking about is a 4,000 square foot box, and you pre-lease them. As you're building them. And that is what allows you to get the construction loan. So you can do that project as a mini development, and then your next one, you just do a 10,000 square foot retail strip, and you just sort of grow from that. And you never take all of the profit, and put it into the next one. You just keep your cushion. Gotcha.
Yeah. I know. Would you build that second 10,000 square feet in the same corner lot, or is that a different?
No. You wouldn't be able to. If the zoning is if the lot's 20,000 square feet and the zoning only allows 20% coverage, then that means you can build 4,000 square feet on that property. So now if it was an acre, 40,000 feet. That what's that? That allows what's that? The 8,000, and you can do that in 2 phases. Like if your finances will only allow you to build the first 4,000 square feet, then you can take that and take the profit from that, and that's your equity to add the other 4,000 square feet on. So you just do it carefully, and. That's what I'd do as a starting development. Now, having said that, because I had 17 years experience behind me, my first development was on Yonge Street, Toronto, and it was a gas station. 10,000 square feet site. I rezoned it for 50,000 square feet mixed use building, and we built it in 10 months. And back then it was 4 consultant reports and 4 months to get it rezoned and permit. That's today, that's over 20 reports and about 3 years to get it rezoned. You know, a new project. That's where the problem is in development today.
The long red tape, the long wait approval time.
Yeah. You know, but I wouldn't try and start with a project in town because the land prices are still nuts. You know, sellers still, you know, they're not dropping prices. You know, so the exurbs are good to start a development.
Yeah. Very key. So you heard that, everyone. Start off with the commercial unit, commercial development, retail plaza, 5 different units. It'll be, what you said, 4,000 square feet. That would be on half an acre.
Yep.
Yeah. Develop that, and you could make between 500,000 and what was the other?
Yeah, $2 million. And what determines the difference is how much you rent the stores for. You know, like you check a traffic count. If it's a good traffic corner, you know, you can afford to charge a higher rent to the tenants. And when you add all of that rent together at the local cap rate, you know, that determines the value of the finished building. And if the value is a 2.5 million, and it only costs you 1.5 million to buy the land and build the box, right? There's the $1 million profit.
Wow. I love commercial. I love commercial, not offices, but I like retail. There's something I like about it. There's something about building a space for a business to make money.
Yeah.
And rent is better. Whenever I go to like a pizza store or maybe I get food, I always like take a look at who the developers are. And I've always wondered the process they've gone through. So yeah, one day I'll take that advice that you gave me.
It's simpler. It's simpler than you think. It really is.
Yeah. Awesome. I know we have about roughly 10 minutes there. You have I know you're very valuable time. I did want to ask you, I know Ian, we connected on LinkedIn. I know you from LinkedIn, and I have watched you being so very outspoken on LinkedIn regarding development and issues in the real estate community. What issues have you found in Toronto regarding development, and what solutions do you think that we can all take from that?
My favorite subject.
Yeah.
And it's the planning process. There's no question. You know, I mean, how it basically works is if you have a site, the first thing that you have to do, obviously, is your concept. Then you apply for what's called a pre-consultation with the city. It's done pre-consult for short. And then the city has that meeting with you remotely for the past couple of years with all the department heads, you know, traffic, engineering, all that. And they comment on your proposal. And they also give you a list of consultant reports that are required. And that list, you know, is at least 20 different consultant reports. You then have to go away and get those done, which, you know, can take 6 or 8 months, depending on the time of year and everything. They go back into the city and the city reviews them. They get them peer reviewed by other professionals, which frankly is insulting to the engineers that have done them. But it's more to protect the city from liability. So after all of that process, the city issues what's called a notice of complete application. And it's only then does the meter start ticking on the approval process, which can take another year or two, you know, with the public meetings and the pushback and all the rest of it. So when it gets to that stage, you know, you're also doing your site plan agreement. And it's a site plan agreement that has to be done and registered before the building department will process your building permits. Okay.
Okay.
And the building permit process is frankly much, much easier than the planning process. So that's what has to change. All of this talk about bringing AI into the approval process and everything, that sounds good in theory, but it still needs the process that I've just described. So until they've got AI reading all of these reports and commenting on them and all of that sort of stuff, which could happen, never say never. This thing isn't going to change, and because of that, all of the introduction of what the feds and everything are providing by way of HST reduction, etc. All of that's great, but it can't be used for another 3 or 4 years because of the process that I've just outlined. So it's a big problem, and it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse.
Yeah, I think you've shared something about Burnaby. They're trying to streamline their process as well. They have an outside third-party consultant doing their DP approval, their development approval.
Yeah, I haven't seen the details in that. I know BC is quite progressive in getting, these things solved. There's a place in the US, I think it's in Florida, one of the counties, and what they do to solve this, and I've proposed it already, is that for the first 6 months, the reports get done and submitted to the city. But at that point, the building permit's available, and what has to be put up is a developer has to put up a $5 or $10 million letter of credit, because they do that already with landscaping and site services. So it's not reinventing the wheel. So basically, the project can get the permit issued, the project can start, and the building inspector who comes on site every week, he can also look at what these reports require, and if it's not being built according to the reports, the city can ding the letter of credit. That will only happen once with a developer if it gets dinged for like 500,000, and the projects will be built according to all the reports. But right now, the length of time it takes the city to process all of that, that's what the real problem is.
Yeah, so it sounds like in Florida, they do it faster. They actually, as you said, it's 4 months, and then they do a line of credit or a credit check, or it would be some sort of money check.
Well,
and then
the issue in actual letter of credit, it's like money. It's like a bond, and that gets lodged with the city. So if there's any issues that the builder's not doing it according to the consultant reports, the city can say, okay, here's a $500,000 that we're drawing out of that letter of credit. That would only happen once with a developer,
That's great. That's why so many people love doing real estate in Florida and in the southern states. Not California, but mostly like Arizona, Texas,
You're right.
Florida. So that's really cool. I've heard good things about it, and it's very key. We're almost gonna land the plane here, Ian. You've filled this with so much information. Is there anything that you want to share finally? You have final words, let's say, for any viewer or listener that you'd like to share?
Well, in this business, as Winston Churchill used to say, never, never, never give up. And that's part of it. You might get disillusioned and disappointed, but you got to pick yourself up the next day, especially if you're in the middle of an actual project that you're putting up. If you're trying to get a project underway and you get knocked back and closed doors and everything, you just keep knocking on the next door, and ask people that have been there before. And as I say in my Quora profile, which is another thing, I've got 200 answers to development on my Quora profile if anybody wants to go on that.
Check that out, Quora.
Yeah, and that you just don't give up. You just keep at it, and it will happen. And I've got on there, I don't mind mentoring people, to a certain extent. They have to be serious, and I've got a way of proving that, them proving that to me. If they don't do it, I won't help them.
For sure. Yeah, your time's, it's valuable. You don't want to give it away. No free attention to someone that isn't worth it. There's no even a great return if you're wasting time. So very key to know. Very good stuff.
It's a very simple thing. They just go on my Quora profile, list 10 answers that I've said that they want further information on, and add 5 of their own, and I'll do a 1-hour Zoom call with them to answer all of that.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's a Quora page, and there's you have a thing going on. It's questions that you're asking.
I'll send you the link. I don't know if you can paste it into this, but I'll send you the link if you want.
Sure. Yeah, I'll attach it to the YouTube link in the bottom in the description. So if you're watching, go check that out. I'll post it down below when it's all uploaded.
Okay. Well done.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Ian. I'm really grateful. And on behalf of Adeel, who wishes he was here, regretfully, he actually wrote some of these questions down. He would like to know. Perhaps we can find some time for all of us to connect. He sends his regrets. He wishes he was here. And I'm truly grateful because I'm learning about development myself. I want to learn about this, buildings, big things, and having $9 billion built. So that's always great.
Just remember, that's just a tool. It's not money that you keep. It's just a tool to get buildings built.
Yeah, it's a good number. It's a good number. You go, hey, 9 billion. You can just mention it in conversation and everyone's, in love.
It comes and it goes.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you again, Ian, for joining us today. This is episode 50. I believe we have been going through a lot, but this is episode 50 with the Adeel Pirzada podcast. We had Ian Jones here today sharing about construction and real estate. Thank you for tuning in. Join us next week for our next guest. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Thank you, Kevin.